Okay. Hello, everyone. We're about to, right here? Yeah. Hello, everyone. We're about to get started. Welcome to the Cross Reality Crypto Club. My name is Gary McFarland. I'm kind of the acting president for now, and my goal is to introduce Andrew Krell.
Where's the drums?
So, thank y'all for coming. Get Tom. All right. So, fortunately, I'm going to stand a little bit further away. Can you see if I'm on camera here?
Yeah, you're on.
Yes, you're
All right, good. All right. So, the Cross Reality Crypto Club, everybody can read this. It's all about the convergence of all of these different items: augmented reality, virtual reality, blockchain, cryptocurrency, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, video games on the consumer side, and also out-of-home entertainment. I think everybody's in this room has got an interest in at least one of these and can probably see the fact that there's a convergence happening around all of them. And that's what these cross-reality crypto clubs, it's the intention of these is to bring together like-minded people that believe this, want to help this happen, help shape it happen, learn about it. And the best way to learn, what's the best way to learn? We've got Dawn Yankee Love got it. What's the best way to learn, Dawn?
Yeah, sit in and listen.
Just sit in and listen? Oh, come on. Who knows the best way to
do
it? Learn by doing.
First you gotta listen, then you gotta do.
Right. So like the internet is all about reading and research. And what we want to do is evolve that into
learning and doing
an experience net.
Yeah.
Experience part. Yeah.
So that's the experience net is where we're trying to take this to, where all devices can interact together, talk to each other in the same game space or same virtual space at the same time, no matter what device, across all platforms. So full cross-platform and full cross-interface, meaning standard screen interfaces, which is just look through the looking glass, if anybody's read that book. Then virtual reality interfaces, from head-mounted displays to full-blown simulators that you sit in where all the displays around you, to augmented reality interfaces. So cross-platform, cross-interface in just a very, ubiquitous network. That's where we're going with all of this. So the experience net should be community-driven, that the ecosystem that benefits its inhabitants. And now I want to try to see if Tom Rowe is up. Tom, where?
Oh, there is.
There it is.
All right. Tom, I'm going to switch you over so you can take over. Tom Rowe can introduce himself here. I'm going to let him do that. Tom, 1 second. All right, you should be on. Can you talk to us?
The audio is distorting pretty badly. Can you hear me?
We can hear you perfectly.
Okay, good. Well, I'm Tom Rowe, also known as T.A. Rowe. I wrote Silica Transition, and I'm responsible for the story. Let me get my headphones up because I'm echoing here. I won't be able to hear you while I talk. Okay. Once I stop talking, I'll mute it. So basically, I'm responsible for the story. The transition story, which I just showed you, is about the future of video games and where I believe we're going from a sci-fi point of view. The story we're working from Nexus, for Silica Nexus, and that story is about how we get there. So it's important to give you a little background. Andy and I knew each other back in the early 90s, where we worked on virtual reality games together. And long story short, about 4 years ago, we decided to try again. So here we are because the technology's finally caught up with us. So I guess probably a year ago now, we had the crypto thing seemed to be really taking off with regard to. So I just see your screen is lighting up, thinking you're talking, but I can't hear you. So the thing is that we want you as a gamer to be able to move from game to game and take your character's statistics and wealth and property with you. And this way to do that was to use the crypto currency and blockchain technology so that everybody's property within the game universe would be their property and no one else could own the same thing. So you can, how many of you all, just by show of hands, are familiar with Star Citizen? One, okay. So, well, Star Citizen is this game that's collected, I don't know, they're probably well over $50 million right now in revenue just from selling objects, spaceships and things within their game universe, which they haven't even gotten past alpha. So they're still in alpha right now, and they've collected that much money selling things so that people can have spaceships that they can fly in. It's first-person perspective. The downside to that is that everybody could have the same ship. They have lots of ships, but when they sell one, a whole bunch of people buy those ships, and there's really nothing separating your ship from somebody else's ship. But of course, if we put this on blockchain, then your ship will be unique. And if we do release, let me see, somebody texting me.
Distractions, no distractions.
I see what you're doing. Hey, let me bring up Andrew's guy that's here. Okay. Okay, so we have we need participants, people then in the community and of all the places where we're going to put these clubs to run their club and to use our crypto, our token, as a form of payment to the club members that want to produce game design, artwork, story, music, sound effects, everything that goes into a game universe. If you know how to model in 3D, if you know how to build game levels, you can use any tools you like, from Unity to the other engines that are out there, and you can start constructing things for the universe. Eventually, we're going to have a way to connect all those things together and to bring the assets that you create into our game universe. For now, we just want to start building up a library that we can sell, and that you can sell and trade, and then you can have property within your Sarah app, which is under development, and that'll be the things that you have made, the things that you have purchased, the things that you have found while you're out running adventures or missions and collecting items. And so one of the things that I was speaking of earlier was we were thinking about how cool it would be to release a series of items, say a new ship or a sword or whatever, and there'd be a limited edition of those. Well, when we release them, then people will be able to purchase them with our droids, or they'd be able to purchase them as items from our website. And then they would have them on their devices as their property. So if there were a limited issue of those things, then those things could go up dramatically in value. Now, right now, we're just talking about value in droids, but of course, the secondary market, which is what you guys are involved in, you can do whatever you want with the droids. So it's up to you to give them value at this point. We hope that we'll be able to do our part over the next 6 months or so to give them value from our point of view and in the real world. but that's still a work in progress. So our goal here, of course, is to inspire you to get involved in working in the game industry and in crypto, and how we can bring those two things together to create a universe that people can play in. So,
Can you hear us now?
let me put my headset in here. Hold on.
So does anybody have any questions?
Okay, I can hear you now.
So Tom is a creative director for Convergence. The cross-reality crypto clubs are completely separate entities from Convergence. The relationship, which I want to make that very clear, is we're just supporting the clubs with our droids to try to get communities building up, just to push, to evangelize cross-reality. Cross-reality and crypto coming together. And that's what we're doing. It does, it is advantageous to us, but it is something that's just cool and happening, and we want to help guide it along the way. Tom is our creative director. Do y'all have any questions on him about any kind of game design, any of that kind of stuff?
My question is, he may have already answered this, but I was wondering what was Tom's inspiration
For
game design?
Tom, did you hear that? What was your inspiration for game design?
Okay, let me turn this down while I talk, because that echoes driving me nuts. Where do I start? I'll try and keep it short. My inspiration is from my childhood. I mean, I'm 54 years old right now. So when I was a kid, I loved Star Trek. When it was on TV back in the late 60s, early 70s. And from that point forward, I was hooked. Always had sci-fi books stacked up in my room, always reading fantasy and sci-fi. Addicted to things like Tolkien and C.S. Lewis and Heinlein and Isaac Asimov, and all these authors just inspired me to want to create worlds and tell stories. So, there's plenty of inspiration to go around. But once, if you're into that sort of thing, then there's certainly a whole lot going on, like on Netflix and places like that, where you can see what everybody's doing these days. But, and so, in a way, I kind of feel like we're going too slow. We want to get other people involved because we think this process needs to move a lot quicker. And we need to see the universe begin to get constructed. So, as a writer, I do a lot of imagination stuff, putting it down as text. But I'm also a 3D modeler and animator, so I do logo design and stuff for us as well. And I'm just trying to do the little bit that I can do on the side because of full-time job and all. But hopefully someday soon we'll be able to create the universe for real and get hundreds of people involved, maybe thousands, constructing something that's so big that a small group of people can't possibly handle it on their own. So that's why we're getting everyone involved.
Cool. Anybody got any other questions?
Can you give a brief description of this Sarah app?
Okay, I'll pick that up. Sarah app, brief description, Pokemon Go with a purpose.
Okay.
It is literally, basically, we drive the Sarah app. We went over that last time. Sarah is Silicon Nexus augmented reality app, and it will send game quests to the players, which will drive them to physical locations. It is a multiplayer augmented reality app where Pokemon Go is actually single player, multiplayer, and it has purpose to engage the players with events that are happening at physical locations. For instance, one quest might send you over to Laser Blaze. You close a wormhole there with like 10 people, and then it gives you a game. The next game, laser tag, you're in that queue as well. That kind of stuff.
My other question is the digital content that's being created for the Sarah app, or what's the
that's a different monster altogether. What we're creating is a cross-reality virtual universe. Think of the Oasis out of Ready Player One.
Mm-hmm.
All the planets are different experiences. Okay.
Now, how many people are familiar with Ready Player One?
Yeah, there we go. It's a really great book and a movie. Steven Spielberg made the movie. So the
we want to
content,
create the Oasis. We want to create a real version of that.
but the content can be for our starter worlds, if you will, which is the Silicon Nexus universe has a couple starter worlds, some good aliens and some bad aliens, to get strife in there. Or it could be a project totally, separate from us altogether that will just, can come together in the Silicon Nexus as content. We're all about supporting the 10 million independent game developers in creating new content. That was one thing that we went over last week, was how we work with the development cycle of third-party developers. And we're there to support them, to give them the tools to help create cross-reality and not get in their way of what they already know. So think of the Silicon Nexus backbone as turning all the game engines, Unity, Unreal, CryEngine, Lumberyard, into interface engines. Okay, so you can make your project on a PC or a cell phone or an arcade machine, and if you're good enough, you can take it across all of the platforms. If you just get a really good piece on one, then we can take and get other developers to take it across the other platforms for you.
I guess I'm just trying to figure out how us making digital content will go with you guys. Or you mentioned making digital content. Are you just talking about game developers making digital content, or are you talking about clubs making?
Oh, well, that was a little confusing there. The clubs need people to create the websites, do club activity, that kind of stuff. But they also want club members to create content for to create games that are cross reality. We want this to be we want to grow a user base of people interested in cross reality for all projects. Okay, so in Louisville, we've got several game developers that are making games all the time. We want to get their projects in on this and support them in any way, shape, or form as beta testers, as just cheerleaders, supporters in any way, shape, or form, to where when they have digital assets that they can sell, we can also be a marketing mechanism for them. Okay? Does any of that make sense? Sorry for taking some of your thunder there, Tom. Anybody got any more questions for Tom? And then I can kind of go into this a little further. And I think Trey also you don't have an app you wanted to show off? Oh, okay. Yes.
I have a question about this concept behind the Oasis, okay? I watched a little bit of Ready Player One. I didn't actually read the movie yet. I'm probably gonna read the book first, okay?
I would.
I'd do it the other way around, because if you read the book first, the movie's a little disappointing. If you watch the movie by itself, that'll be awesome. And then when you read the book, you're gonna be like, even more. So that's my opinion, but you can do it whatever works.
The book is amazing.
The book is amazing, yes.
So Tom, when you're looking at, conceptually, you're thinking of this as being something very similar to the Oasis, okay?
Well, let me clarify. All right, we were 3/4 of the way into this project before any of us read the Ready Player One.
So are you?
It was like scary how close it is.
Ready Player One. Okay, you can go back farther than that. You can go to Tron in 1981. Okay, so you can go all the way back to there. That was kind of a spark. That was a really cool way to look at going inside of a computer. But when I was 10 years old, in my study hall, I had a sketchbook. I didn't study very much, but I would be drawing. I was drawing virtual reality video game environments in my notebook before any. We're talking about 1976. So this was long before anybody was talking about virtual reality. But in my mind, I already saw that we'd be able to immerse ourselves in video games with 360 degrees around us. And that was the only way to go. And so I was addicted to games as a kid.
All right, well, let's get to your question, though.
I've always been into it, but I think now we're at a point where we actually start seeing all the pieces fall into place. Ready Player One was using, for the most part, was using technology that's pretty much available right now. We've got the suits, we've got the walkway, we've got the guns and things. So, I mean, we've got everything we need to build that, and that's how we're moving.
So your question,
So the question is, and this I think goes into the development side of it.
Right.
Is the attempt here to create the oasis? Or is the attempt here to create a universe that the oasis is kind of like, oh yeah, that's what we want? Because
The second one,
well, let me see if I clarify a little bit.
yeah.
There's the purpose of the Silicon Nexus project
Mhm.
is to create this cross-reality virtual universe with
Okay.
a blockchain backbone. The purpose of the separate entity that is the cross-reality crypto clubs
Mhm.
are fan bases, support clubs, a community that will help evolve these cross-reality experiences, whether it's made by us or other people. We want to turn these 10 million independent game developers and all the main studios out there into creating cross-reality the right way, and evolve it. I mean, who knows what the number one cross-reality video game is right now?
Is that, it's not.
Fortnite.
Boom!
It is Fortnite.
How long is that?
It's Fortnite. Fortnite is one of the very first ones that really crosses, but we don't think they go far enough because they stopped PC. We want to bring in arcade machines, location-based entertainment, theme park attractions. We're talking $20 million, $30 million theme park things that link into these video games, all interactive.
So if you're looking at game developers, and if you're looking at, and I'm gonna go back to.
So you do see the distinction between the two.
Yes.
You've got the what was that you said the other day? You got the singer, and then you got the singer's fan club,
Right.
right? But they do support the singer kind of thing. But they're totally separate. They don't control the singer's business, but they do help the singer, grow and that kind of stuff. And we want to turn this experience net into an open source organization, which what that means is Tom,
That was his
that was your dog. An open source organization, but we have to evolve to that. What that means is it is pretty much voted on and controlled by its members, by the people in the community, by the game players. Imagine a world where the game players get to have real input on what functions and features they get in the games that they have.
But if you're looking at, here's where I'm trying to get my head wrapped around this, Andrew, is that you have assets on your site, for your crowdfunding site.
Right.
Okay, you can buy them. Okay?
Correct.
You can buy these assets. These assets, when I look at them as they are, and this is not knocking anybody, this is just me trying to get my head wrapped around it. You can do nothing with those assets. You can just hold them.
Currently,
Right, so from a
Currently-
development standpoint, those assets are gonna be used towards something. And if you're looking at a developer to create something like this, do you want that developer to be able to work in that universe where these assets will be used?
the developers can work in those assets are for our starter planets, starter
Okay.
worlds. Though developers can build their own worlds. They can build pieces of ours or build their own. In doing something as ambitious as the Silicon Nexus project,
Mhm.
you kind of have to build demo code, demo examples, so people try them out and say, oh, that's what that means, and then they go expand on it. I mean, what we're actually going for is to build a center that developers can come through and people can come through. That is a Nexus station, which is 5 different interfaces.
Mhm.
Okay, 7 rooms, 5 different interfaces. You got orientation, then you go and do together in groups of 10. Then you go do it's a theatrical walkthrough, but you do an augmented reality experience. And the tour guides are teaching you what that means to the Silicon Nexus and what you should kind of think about. Then you go from there to consumer level VR. You go from there to arcade level VR, and you go from there to a location-based entertainment. So effectively in those, you're going from an $800 interface where you earn something into your one account. Then you go to a $3,000 interface where you earn something else into your one account. Then you go to a $12,000 interface, you earn something else into that one account. Then you go to a $40,000 interface. So more progressive wows, you earn something else into your account, and then it assembles. And what you have is your own private little spacecraft, which anybody knows a project out there you can pre-buy spacecrafts? Anyway, that's just a rub on Star Citizen, but we're going to give you one. Then you step around the corner, and there's a $300,000 max flight simulator. You get to climb into the cockpit of your very own spacecraft and take it for its maiden voyage. And that whole time, we're doing the Disney-esque theme and explaining this is how the Silicon Nexus will evolve to where all of these interfaces can interact together in the same game space eventually. But that's years down the road. We have to go from here to there. Today, we can produce content in all of those, link them together with our Sarah app, so you can collect all the goods from them. But they don't play together well yet. Fortnite does, but very, very few others do.
I don't know of anything else that is cross-platform.
There's a couple.
But I'm sure there are, but that's the only one I'm really even aware of.
Exactly.
My question is, I mean, I'm very aware of the crypto space. I feel like there's some competitors you guys have. What is, or maybe, like, I feel like Tron is kind of a crypto video game.
Well, there are, okay, I've seen several that are video game tokens. All right. Our purpose is not to make the cryptocurrency for the game world. Our purpose is to make a cross reality universe, or pretty much just think of it as a very big, the next evolution of video game operating system, which just so happens has a feature in there that none of the else does. Because it's the operating system for the video games, we put the virtual currency layer into the operating system so it can interact with all of the different worlds. And we put that on the blockchain, so then you can take it outside of us and exchange it on the markets. So our whole purpose was a feature we came up with back in 2014 to eliminate fraud in video games. That's the reason we're coming up with it. And then we found out that we could pay our developers in 2015, well before the ICOs, we pay our developers in that and they would do the work. So now we're moving forward on that. Then the ICO market popped up. So yes, there are people coming out with them, but they're really setting up more like an escrow world. But they're starting to try to figure out how to do this cross.
Like I was wondering about Engine, for instance. Like what you're, I'm just trying to figure out what makes, I'm just trying to figure out the difference.
I am meeting with Engine to talk about partnerships, partnering with them. I'm going to meet with them in Korea. We've been talking with them for quite some time now, and I can't go into any more detail while I'm on.
I mean,
I can't go into any more. But Engine started out as a community. They drive video game communities, and then they came up with this wallet, really good, and they're coming up with being able to swap objects as well. Very, very good. Their purpose in the world is different from ours, but we see what they're doing fits into what our piece is. So depending on how the economy works out, because there are some issues between us working with Engine and the overall economy, but I think those are issues that can be overcome. And I'll know more about that when I get back on the 22nd. But Engine,
cool that you guys could have a partnership with Engine.
we don't have a partnership with Engine. Let me be very clear. We don't have one. We're going to talk about one. So, but yes.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to steal everything from people. I just have a lot of, I read your white paper, so I have questions.
All right. Well, let me jump on and run through the rest of this. Tom, you can stick around, but I'm going to take you off screen now. But you can ask questions by texting me, and we can bring you back in if you need to. All right. So, what we're trying to do, and the reason is make this a token-based ecosystem. As I gave a good lesson last time, is the difference between a dollar bill-based ecosystem. The main thing is, in a token-based ecosystem, people are not as much out for just themselves. In a dollar bill one, if he gets really wealthy with dollars, it doesn't benefit you at all. In a token-based one, if this group over here makes the token worth tenfold what it was for 10 times, guess what? That benefits everybody in the ecosystem. And that's why it's so much more powerful. So that's what we're working towards. And the community plays a big part in it. And that's what these crypto clubs are all about.
So is it like a universal form of credit, but everybody can take a piece of it?
You played World of Warcraft?
Yeah.
Think of what we're doing is World of Warcraft Gold. Simple as that. It is the form of currency inside the games that you would trade back and forth, because this Warhammer is a different price than this armor, so you'll trade the Warhammer for the armor and some gold.
Okay.
Following?
Yep.
So it's just a way to even things out. Yes, sir.
So this currency is gonna be the droid cryptocurrency, right?
That's ours. So the droid's already made. Correct.
Have you thought of maybe using other cryptos more well-known, like Litecoin, Bitcoin?
All right. We
Limited amount. I mean, there's 2,000 cryptos
Right.
out there. But a couple of the more well-known, Ethereum, Litecoin, Bitcoin.
The difference is that we have control over the droids. We're able to put it into the operating system, and we can trade our droids for Bitcoin. We can trade our droids for Litecoin. We can trade our droids for all of them. Once they get on the secondary markets, you can trade for anything. But because we have the whole ecosystem that we're wrapping around our tokens, if we don't manufacture those tokens, then it's no good for us to. It basically is the engine behind running all of the whole. I get to pay my developers, the people making content for the Silicon Nexus project. I get to pay them in our droids. I get to pay the players in our droids.
Then
If I had to go and have Ethereum, then I have to come up with several $1 billion to try and compete with them. And then we get back into the same problem we were at before, is that right now in the video game industry, there's only a handful of people that make the decisions on who gets accepted into the big games, what games get funded. And that's why there's a huge problem that there's not been any innovation in video games for decades, because they've gotten so expensive. I mean, Destiny cost $500 million to create, and if they were wrong and it was a total flop, that would have severely hurt the company. You know, and that's the problem in there, is these handful of people. I mean, there's probably 10 of them that really have the power to dictate. There's $1 billion going in this game. There's 200 million going in this one. There's not that many. And their job is on the line every time. So that has restricted the real creativity. But everybody in the developer community knows that there's hundreds of games that have really creative new ideas coming out there, but they can't get fully funded. So yes, we could utilize somebody else's token, but then we have to go to somebody else to get the money to build this thing, and nobody's paying for $1 billion development. The Silicon Nexus project, just the research and development part alone, is a $1 billion design build project without any marketing whatsoever.
How do you buy these droids itself?
We manufacture. How do you get them?
Yeah.
You can earn them. You can work for them. You can.
Mine them or stake them?
The way you mine the coins. Well, unfortunately, I think I took that out of this slide deck. Let me see here. Yep, I took it out of this slide deck. Let me go back in, because I went too far here.
Andrew, is it fair to say this is a utility token?
This is absolutely a utility token.
Yeah.
All right, so one of the beautiful things in the US is I can give away utility tokens to anybody I want to at any levels I want to. I have a hard time in the US selling them to anybody but accredited investors. So we're donating tokens to the Cross Reality crypto clubs, okay, to help. And you can earn tokens. Last time I gave them away to everybody that was here.
Well, that's one reason why I'm here. I'll take my hand. You promise.
Oh, wow. I never said I was giving out 100,000 every meeting, but you can earn them by working for the club, meetings that work. You can recruit people. There should be all kinds of thousands of things that you can do that would earn them from the club's coffers. Then I was asked the other day is, well, why would I pay dues with droids? Because if we said, the club's got to get formed, and it's not fully formed. We've got an acting president. That's about it. We need to get all that going. But why pay dues with the droids? One of our goals, and hopefully anybody that owns droids goals, what would one of their goals be?
Make it worth more money.
I can't really say that. To get them on the exchanges where you can convert them to other things. How do you get them on the exchanges? Look at what the exchanges, all right, so I'm going to do this backwards order. In the exchanges, you've got Ethereum here. In a 24-hour period, 400 million Ethereum, or Ether, I'm sorry, Bitcoin is being traded. 400 million in a 24-hour period. Ethereum is 128 million full coins being traded in a 24-hour period. You've got to get circulation. You've got to get churn in the coin. Basically, every single transaction ever since the beginning of time of any coin, you can see it happen in real time. I took this picture a couple hours ago. So there's only currently 64 addresses, wallets out there that have droids in them. 20 of those are our initial 20 wallets that had, when we had them made, we made every one of them, and we put them in 20 wallets to comply with our white paper. There's 5 areas in the white paper. I didn't want any one wallet to have more than 10%. And then we broke them down for different reasons within those spots. But 20 wallets that hold that. And then those are the people that have them outside of our 20 wallets. And that was 10 people in the last meeting. So not very many people had these yet. So one of the goals is to get a lot of transactions happening with a lot of people. Okay.
And that's why you make these clubs.
And that's one thing for the clubs is we're supporting this because, hey, if we support our droids and they find a bunch of uses for them, and if I get my droids in 100,000 people or 1 million people's hands, that's 1 million people wanting them to be worth something. I got 1 million people in the same boat we are in. Okay. And that's one of the big meetings that I had going over to China is we're going to talk to one of the largest family entertainment centers there. They're looking at using our cryptocurrency in their organization, and they deal with hundreds of millions of people a month. That will definitely get these on the exchanges. So that should be everybody's goal.
All right, so exchanges mean
Binance.
Binance. Oh, God, don't tell me about Binance. I hate those fools, but.
There's 20 of them like Binance. Binance is probably the biggest.
Binance, but yeah, try and get your account reactivated. You have to shut it down. They kept, what do they do? For months, they kept rejecting. Picture too small, not big enough.
All of these things are really good to talk about because you know about Binance. I'm sure you have no clue what we're talking about. And I mean, that's what these clubs are about is transferring knowledge to everybody around you and getting everybody going on the same page.
The last thing that can you like maybe PC? In the early stages, you would PC mine something. Later, you go to ASICs, which is a dedicated chip.
How do you mine us?
Huh?
All of ours are already created. How do you mine us? You mine us in 2 different ways. Okay, in our 5 slots, we have 10% for crowdfunding, 10% for, I'm just going to change the name of it, but it's going to be for our strategic partners. It was the initial coin offering, which we're not doing at this point. We're going to do it through strategic partners. 5% for basic expenses and the team and the advisors and ICO box and all that. And then 75% was split down the middle almost to players at 38% and developers at 37%. So the main way to mine our coin is to either play the games or create the content. That's how you mine the coins. And then you can trade them around, or if they are trading them on the secondary exchanges, you can pick them up off the secondary exchanges. But that's how you get to mine them from scratch out of the big wallets, play the games or create the content. That's the main two things. Every one of them's already been created. We can go look at the contract the contract code is up on GitHub. You can go look at it. We can't make any more. 1 trillion. Now, why 1 trillion? Because I actually went and tried to do 1 billion, and Keith Tier came along. We got our hand slapped on not saying this right. So he is the founding investor of TechCrunch. And he came along, he's like, wait a minute, Andy, I'm very conservative myself when it comes to business plans and that, but you're not thinking big enough here. I'm like, why? He goes, well, you're trying to build games kind of like a World of Warcraft. I'm like, yeah, which has hundreds of millions of players. I said, right. He goes, but you're doing it where you have a cell phone component. There you got 2.7 billion game players.
Wow.
Okay. If for whatever reason you find that halo that takes off and every one of those cell phone game players wants $2.50 worth of your tokens, you're out of tokens. I'm like, well, yeah, but it divides up and goes up in value and you can divide them out to 100 million places. He goes, no, you got to understand the mind of the players. They want to own whole tokens and they want to get them for pennies, and they'd like to see them grow from there. I'm like, oh, so we started hanging around, and it's just kind of trillion kind of fit as a nice round number. They still can be divided, every one of them, but initially people want to get, want to put out their $100 and get a decent amount of them, so they can actually see when it moves. That's the reason for it. And when you look at the marketplace that we have, we're looking to go straight up against Tencent and Microsoft and all that. I was just talking about the video games. Video games today cost hundreds of millions of dollars to create a AAA game. You know what Activision's marketing budget was 3 years ago? I don't know what it is today, but it's somewhere in the same vicinity. $250 million for Activision. What we want to do is take that burden off of the video game players that are coming out inside of the Silicon Nexus. So we need a war chest to do that. And that gives us this war chest to be able to put those tokens towards Zone. If you remember, Machine Zone's games. Anybody know the game's a Game of War or Fire Age? Who did they have all over every single TV? What was the model's name? Anybody?
What year is this game?
This was like 3 years ago, and then just recently they have Arnold Schwarzenegger on all of the different. That's Machine Zone. They were a startup. They spend $44 million a year per game to market it.
Wow.
Just to break it into the industry. So a brand new developer might spend $100,000 to $5 million worth of labor in building his game, but then he's got no way of marketing to make it get out there, and that's the problem that we're fighting. So anyway,
then did you buy? Did you say, okay, I want to buy some of these? Because I'm really not much of a gamer.
buy some of what?
Droids.
How do I answer that properly? I'm donating them to the club. The club can do what they want.
How many are you donating? How many are you donating per club?
We're going to work that out, right? But right at this point, it's at least a million, and we can revisit it every month. At least
Are
$1
you
million.
President?
Yeah, the intention of our club is to start working together amongst ourselves and come up with creative ideas. And I'm just gonna be Bill Gates about it. I'm not the smartest man in the room, but I think you guys are pretty smart and we'll all come up with a really great idea on how to get the most use out of them and come up with ways to use them.
Yeah, so one thing to use them is to reward people for bringing in more club members. Now, this was one of the ways I look at social media growth or exponential growth. I always look back at the example of the penny. Who in here knows if you have a penny in your pocket today and you double it every day for 30 days, what you end up with at the end of the month?
A millionaire.
How much?
Oh, it's over $1 million. So it's on that, so the stock.
If you have a penny day 0 and 30 days you double it every day,
We'll be a millionaire by the end of the month.
you have 10,730,000. So notice in that last email I put out there, I was like, anybody that brings 2 friends along, I'll give them, what's that, 1,000 droids. If you bring 5 friends, I'll give you 10,000. That's the kind of stuff that and if you did that, I did the math the other day, if everybody in here brings 5 friends that sign up every week for 18 weeks, you have every single game player on planet Earth in the club. Will that happen? No, but that's exponential growth, and that's why you want to figure out something that not only motivates you but motivates your friends to join the club. First, the club has to be really cool. I mean, are we doing cool stuff in here? Are we trying to talk about cool stuff? Is this things you all want to learn? Yes, no, any hands?
Yes.
Yeah. So you'd like to come back a couple times a month. And if it happens every week, then you can come back a couple times a month. That's cool. And hopefully bring your friends and get incentivized to bring your friends. And that gets more people on the droids, pushing them, gets more churn. You know, how many did I give you last week?
100,000.
100,000 droids, right? And if they charge 1,000 droids a month or a week or whatever for, say, a month for dues, you've already got enough you can spend some for the dues, right? Because it's actually in your benefit to get that churn going. Because we get enough churn going, then we get picked up by the exchanges, and then you can trade them for Bitcoin or Ethereum or other things that you want. So, yeah, that's kind of the things. What other questions do you all have? We also have a annual conference that we all come together every week. We already put one of those on. There we go. There we go. And
I got a question.
yes.
In the interest of organizational structure, what are we looking at? Robert's Rule of Orders? Are we trying to have a president, vice president, secretary?
I'm supporting your club, sir. You tell me what you all want.
What are you guys thinking in terms of organizational structure? We all would like Robert's Rule of Order, have president, vice president,
Are
chairman.
you out of here, sir?
1 second.
What does a blockchain or a decentralized organization structure look like? Is it just all flat? I mean, what are the thoughts in terms of how we should do things?
Stand up here and take over, sir.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Thank you all. If you have any questions, I'll be here. I'm going to give you some water.
I've been a member of various clubs like unions, which
Yeah.
are so structured and start off with that boring. So and so is going to read the minutes from the last meeting. I don't want to go there.
I was totally kidding. I didn't expect it to look like that either.
If we could
Yeah.
issue some kind of newsletter, like for any meeting and drum up interest, here's what happened last week.
So who wants to do the newsletter and get paid, what do you think, 2 or 3 hours for doing the
Like 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah.
Do you want to do that? Do you want to do that?
1,500 droids an hour.
That might be the best way to do it. Kind of staying decentralized. The person that you take a thing that you're interested in and you drive that thing, and you decide you'll be in that role and kind of drive that thing. And I know mine is somewhat is communicating. I'll communicate. I'm talking to as many people I know about it.
You might want to step back from the camera because you're still broadcasting.
Oh, okay. Oh, so my goal, for example, would be to talk to as many people I know and to get as many different people involved. I consider myself a compulsive connectaholic, so I like to bring people together in groups. And so I'm meeting people in various situations. not too strange, and bringing them, let them know what I'm involved in. So
I'll go ahead and make the website.
you're gonna make a website?
All
Yeah.
right, so how many hours do you think that'll take?
Big project.
My thought was,
Well, I need the experience. I'm in graphic design. I need the experience.
I was thinking why not just do a Facebook page or something like that where it's,
Website, I mean,
do an actual, okay, okay,
Website.
okay.
He wants
Okay.
experience, do it.
Go ahead. I don't want to hold you back. Go ahead.
I gotta find that student for the RSO. I'm an alumni here, though. So I'm on here everything. You guys should come to the TEDx. I'm putting on 2 in the spring too. It's March 1st. But yeah, so I'll get that.
August is treasurer, you don't pay me.
Can we flip back over to Tom?
Oh, yes. Okay.
I believe Tom actually has he's already registered a domain for this, I think.
If he has, then that's great. Here, do mine.
Oh,
Hey, Tom, you still with us?
As far as media,
I went to the split. Is he guys?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
All
I'm
right,
here.
do you have a domain already registered? Because we haven't volunteered to build a website.
Well, we need a volunteer to bring in a better microphone because the sound is awful.
We can hear you perfectly.
It's really terrible. I can barely hear you half the time, but, the name of the website, hold on a second. Let me just- Before I say it. And what we can do with the website, if you guys, whoever wants to take charge of it, I just make you an admin and you can go ahead and start building. Because we want to be as hands-off as possible, but I think the website should probably be maybe a WordPress, multi-WordPress site or something that allows you to search through the database of all, and let everybody have their own site, basically.
Alright, good, because man, if I was building from the ground up, that'd be like, that's gonna take some time. But the WordPress,
Yeah, that's starting point.
I could set up the initial and then turn it over to somebody.
Quincy Nelson.
I can get the WordPress installed and you guys can do the plugins and get everything going, or you can do your own thing from scratch if you want. I'll just give you, FTP access.
Okay.
If that's the way you want to go.
What's a domain?
I'm checking here. Hold on. I just got it like a week or 2 ago and I haven't looked at it. So.
So,
Okay, I've got xrcryptoclub.com.
how many Troys do we have to donate to the club to cover him build a website?
I'll donate them to
I guess you just gotta do the math, number of hours times number of days per hour, so.
Work back and forth with,
the treasurer.
exactly.
it's not too detailed.
you got a treasurer that'd be helpful.
Who wants to be the treasurer? Do you volunteer?
I should be the treasurer.
All right.
Crazy treasurer.
Anybody vote on it? Because I can't vote on it. I can't be.
Okay, my wife Lori wants to be the treasurer.
I
What do
just
you,
think I might.
or does someone feel like they're better equipped?
Oh, let me say something about that. That means you can set up a wallet just for the club's expenses. Give everybody the address, the public address of that wallet. They get to make their dues, pay the dues there, but they can set up their engine wallets to watch it, so they can see every transaction that goes in and out of it. And that's freaking cool. You're coming up with the brands and all that. This is your all thing. I'm trying to stay as far away as just donating droids to it and get to talk to you guys and help you build them up around the world. That's what I'm trying to do. So this is really your all thing, right?
We need everybody's email. I'll put a group in.
Who was volunteering to build the website?
That'll be me, Tom.
Just step up in front of the camera there, you can see it.
Come a little closer because I'm having trouble hearing you. What'd you say?
I said I'll be in charge of doing that.
Okay, so do you have your own server or do you want me to set up the DNS for that and then you just take charge? Or what?
Set up the DNS and I'll go ahead. And if you want it on a WordPress, it'll probably, I don't know how long it'll take, but I'll just keep track of my hours.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah,
and
send me
then
with the
work it out
DNS.
with the treasurer, I guess, or whoever's in charge of joints per hour allocation. And you guys figure that out. We want to have as much hands off as possible here. But the goal is for you guys to just use your creativity to come up with something. And then, we would love to see what you do with it, because we would love to mirror that all over the place if we can. Because you're the first one.
You got an email?
I gave you all his contacts.
Send me an email so that I can reply with FTP access and all that. Okay.
Got it. Will
My
do.
email.
Yes.
My email's 411tom@gmail.com.
That was just broadcast to the world, Tom.
That's fine. It's been my email for a long time, so it's okay. I can filter spam better than anyone. All right, so I'm good.
Oh,
3 o'clock in the morning, Tom.
You just issued a challenge to all my Russian followers.
Oh, that's okay. Tom can hack it.
I eat Russian bots for breakfast.
Oh,
It's on now, boy. It's on big time now.
I'm not going to give out the FTP access information. I'll say that for an email.
Yeah, I think that's what email's for. Good call.
Oh, and by the way, got a full VR back here and another VR up here if y'all want to play.
Yes. Windows mixed reality over here.
All right, so that was the, we've got a makeshift president, and if y'all want to vote him out, I'm sure he'll vote out anytime you want. We got the secretary treasurer. Now you probably want like a business development person, and what else? What was the other thing?
Oh, it's yeah, on this spot, it's just showing president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, business development. But we got Glenn wanted to do the
Oh, vice
newsletter.
president. Yeah, you don't have
Oh, vice president.
Anybody want a vice president this time? Go once.
Okay,
All
Tim.
right.
Okay, Tim.
Anybody vote on it?
I second that.
I said,
I think the ayes have it.
All right. There you go.
Okay, Tim, VP. Let's see, so we got, okay, so we got Lori as treasurer, we've got Glenn for newsletter, we've got Quincy for the webpage, and we got now Tim as the vice president. And
And he's doing the website. Quickly, I got that right.
yeah. What about business development? Anyone? Anyone?
Yeah.
Bueller?
Well, at the end of the month, I'm doing a talk to the business schools, executive MBAs,
Okay.
and then the dean was going to try to get this club injected in with that.
Oh,
I'm
awesome.
sure we'll get business development out of there.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can name it. I have it as your Cross Reality Crypto Club. Y'all name it whatever you want.
Personally, I like that. I think we should stay with that. Cross Reality Crypto Club
And this is all for Louisville, all for the city of Louisville.
for Louisville, yeah.
Okay, you're on the first one. I am
using
going to
XRCC
China.
as
I'm
the
gonna try to get
initials.
a sister one.
Yeah,
in
XRCC.
China, then I'm going to Seoul, Korea. We're going to try to get you a sister one there, and I've already got you a sister one being built in Bahrain.
Alright, so okay, so is the only one in the US?
Bahrain.
Try to remember that.
Okay.
That's over.
No, it's not the only crypto club.
UAE.
This is the only one for the joint right now.
Oh, okay, thank you, I was like,
No, I'm sorry, there's a blockchain club, there's
Yeah.
a Bitcoin club.
There's
I was about
Cointucky.
to say, 'cause this website got to be fired.
Is the name the token Droid or is it XR? Because the white paper said XR.
Okay, the white paper was done before when the white paper was originally made, it was Nano. Ryblock stole Nano, and once they stole Nano, we redid the white paper, came out with it, and we was like, we'll just call it the XR token. And then right before we built the token, we found out the droid was open.
Okay, so the white paper needs to be updated just a little bit.
A lot, yes.
Let's
The white paper,
Sorry, that's
the white paper has not been touched in 6 months.
been thrown with that, like I wrote the white paper today. I'm sorry, we just wrote through.
Yeah, so the XR token that we talked about in there, that was just a generic name we were using, is now the droid, and they're amazing. There's no going back on them. I cannot unmake them.
Right. I was thinking if it was on exchange, it'd be like DRD or something like that.
No, we actually have the names for the droid exchanges as the droid.
Well, really, it would be DROID on exchange.
Yeah, because they asked what's the symbol you're using, started looking for them, like, there's no way to shorten droid to anything cool, let's just make it droid. Yeah, it'll take 5 letters. Boom, done.
I guess there's no problems with Android, using Android, like anything like that, or Android phones.
Not yet.
That's something I saw that else, because the commercials, they used to go Droid, so I was.
No, well, I mean, put it this way, there's, you've got Star Wars ahead of droid, you've got, oh, I don't know if they actually use it first, I mean, there's.
No, I mean.
But those are big franchises that'll come after you, so, no idea.
I guess it's one of those things, Droid, you can argue Droid is so generic, that
It is.
no one
That's exactly-
really, no one really has rights to it.
It's a D-Roid, what are you talking about? It's like Roids. Steroids.
It occurs to me that we need to decide on a frequency that we want to meet, like in a month.
I'm going to suggest
Go ahead.
meet weekly if you can, and then have your members, be able, that way people can come.
Gotcha.
So,
In the crypto space, most of the crypto clubs I've seen have gotten to where they're meeting weekly.
Weekly.
Some of them are meeting twice a week.
Wow.
There's
Okay.
that much change in the industry.
Every 2 weeks?
It's that fast, it's that hot. Would you agree or disagree?
Oh, it's,
Depending on how
it's so
many
fast.
people have, right now, I think the more people we have, the
Oh,
more.
I have, many times.
Right now,
Yeah,
like,
no,
process can meet every other week.
Gotcha.
And I'd rather have a full meeting than a half meeting.
Oh, this is, did I not transfer?
Gotcha. You kind of feel like you lose continuity without, yeah.
sorry, you paper?
No, I got it.
Andrew,
I'll take this.
All you have to do is, all right.
Andrew, one thing that I think, which I'm gonna take the lead on, is what we're doing here is kind of, this is the beginning of all of this, we're developing what we're gonna do at Crypto Club. I want it repeatable. So what I'm gonna do is, once we get everything settled, and we, have the discussions about where things are gonna be and what's gonna happen, if this is okay with you, Mr. President, to.
Harumph. No, go ahead.
Put together just basically, this is the outline of how you create these.
You can set up a wiki page.
We'll,
I mean, well, that's just basically, here's the rules. I mean, that was one of the fun things out at the Hacker Dojo when they set that up. They set up a wiki page that people got to change with the rules and all that. And the number one rule at Hacker Dojo was don't be a dick. And everything else flew from that.
well, and part of it is, it's gotta be something that is, like I said, for the people,
Right.
but really, basically, it's a best practice, okay?
Yes.
This is the way that we did it, we are not gonna advocate, this is the only way it can be done, but this is a straw dog of how we've done it, and here are our suggestions. Here's where we failed, here's what worked, so,
Thanks, Tom.
if that's all right, Mr. President.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, the only thing we did.
Jared.
Let's
Go on,
Quincy.
Quincy Siobhan.
No, it's, how do you play this? Alan.
Well, you've already done it, so it's already there.
Cool. Not for telling
Anything else popping anybody's head?
All right, so, since he just wrote, said, yes, I'm gonna do the website,
Yes.
and I said I was gonna give how much to the club itself?
$1 million.
$1 million. what's the website worth an hour? It's $1,500 an hour. Let's just give you 10 hours up front, it's like 15,000.
Yeah,
All right, bring your wallet over here, I'll give you 40,000.
And Glenn, you're gonna have to connect with Quincy as he gets things going because you'll be able to submit the newsletter onto the website. But do you think those should be coupled with emails as well?
This is your encouragement.
Do you think the newsletter should be coupled with like emails as well?
Yeah, I think actually. it
Kind of to keep a continuity.
would be a good idea for all the regulars to have an email.
Although there's a, have you heard of Telegram?
I was showing you this.
Because we could all jump on Telegram and we could have a little group. Okay, yeah.
Okay, we doesn't have
I think we have one. We could all use that. I've heard of Telegram. Oh, Telegram's an app. It's an app.
It's like ERC20, there's some ether wall.
Slack.
Yeah, well, mine is-
Yeah, no, it's on Slack, yeah. And those team.
Right, so this is page from one.
Okay, okay,
By the time I catch up with them, I'm
So
50.
two half,
So
What about
let's just get everybody's email addresses and keep it that way. That way we don't give another, yeah.
Snapchat is my dog.
Right.
We have not Snapchat in mind. But,
We'll go with emails, everyone, that way we're just, no extra layers.
so we were talking about weekly,
well, I
which,
mean, that's also paid
Um,
for.
that sounds like a good rush, but, you know, hey, whatever you want.
You know,
I don't think that's what we were originally.
What you could do is, since you have the video capabilities, is
I
some
mean,
people like you maybe.
I have
you
it set.
text me, but
I
you
can
could
do
do
my, I
listening
can choose my.
and participating on the video.
So that's, I have my ether address.
You don't even have to use the face, but you can be listening and you can see what's going on in the room.
If you got a smartphone, we'll send you
You
some
can use
droids
Mixler
so you have some play with.
just kind of listen to a lot.
Download a good wallet.
I'll see what I can
Use
manage.
engine wallet.
and see what we can put together. Okay.
I just have my ether wall.
But Telegram would be there because they actually communicate China or, you know, another club somewhere in the foreign country.
I can't use this smartphone.
Right. That's why I brought up Telegram because
That's what I love.
yeah, because we did run for unicorns. Everybody was all over the world, and we were all in Telegram. Having a face, it was nice. Oh, right there. We had people still in China, like Jay was still in China. We had the meeting, and so we had to still out of him and see what's going on. How it's going on. Another people that across the country, so it's just like awesome. That we talk. I don't know. Oh, you can tell.
No.
There's some things I want to say.
Oh, yeah, I was talking about that.
All right.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, we can. I'm sorry, didn't mean to leave you out.
I need to know the username for the school, for this particular club.
Yeah, we need
Just a one-word name.
What'd you say?
This will be the slash, subfolder that this particular group is in. Is it Duncan or are they using?
I'd say you might want to call it Louisville or you call it if we call it Bellarmine, we're hooked in directly.
I can't hear you, you're too distorted.
We got Bellarmine or
I think we should go Louisville. Louisville.
Right, and we might get overruled by the dean of the Bellarmine school later on. We can change
Could you go Derby City?
Just call it something.
Okay,
like
Derby City.
Derby. How about Derby City then?
Derby City, Derby City.
Derby City.
that. Yeah.
That's perfect. Yeah,
City.
that ties in perfectly with Run for the
Derby
Unicorns.
City's good because then you have the annual.
Yeah, Run for the Unicorns. Yeah.
Run for the Unicorns.
So,
Yes, it ties right in.
one word,
Derby
Yeah,
City.
one word, Derby City.
One word, Derby.
okay.
Derby City. We can't count.
That's good.
I learned the mouse.
XRCC.
That's what we definitely want to do. We definitely.
No, he's just one. We'll just go with Derby City.
What's he saying?
Yeah, to distinguish us.
You can identify.
But he knows we're already crypto.
But it's so, what is he setting up? So there's, go in and work on the website? So he's setting up-
It's pretty much
I think he's setting.
90%.
Yeah, it's just for our orientation.
Did you send me your address? Yes, thank you for saying it that way instead of saying.
It's valid zero.
Check your walls.
That's right.
I've got,
I got a guy. You should meet too. All that is.
Quincy, anybody here? Like gamers?
Yeah.
You know, Bellarmine Gamer Group?
There is actually a Bellarmine game.
Yeah. So, if you want me to get in contact with them, they probably. I got all my stuff.
I went to my school and there.
So I'll go ahead and I'll get you the website and a time and date.
I think that less
So maybe I'll probably do like an hour.
Oh, yes, yeah. Only thing. Oh, I call it. Hey, first. Oh, my God.
Right now, updates. Yeah. It won't be hard, just.
Oh, yeah, guys, I'm not gonna be here until the 22nd, but, you know, you should, have a meeting next week, the week after, we can keep.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, guys, I overlooked one more thing. Hey, guys, I overlooked one more thing. Hey, Andrew.
Yo.
Is it your birthday? Yeah, it's Andrew's birthday. He's not even here. Goodbye. Nice to meet you.
One thing I suggest.
Anyone that's small, is interested in cryptocurrency, artificial intelligence, internet of things, virtual reality.
Thanks a bunch, Tom.
All right, somebody just texted me,
Here comes the follow-up on what it's.
Alright, so is that for him or is that for you?
Andrew, I'll talk to you later.
Can you send it to Glenn when it's-
All right, thanks for coming.
Well,
I don't have time to like. How do we get all right?
This is here's the video. One of them, be on the next slide.
yeah, that's good.
Anyway, I'll find
See this bad, but
You get 50.
I'm still gonna get, I'm ready for this year, called.
Yes.
You understand how to use it.
This-
And understanding how it's made, there's a lot different. That's all
That's why you should be programmed.
Well, I'm going to say, doing the outside again.
Understand.
Good job.
What this
Oh, thank
is.
you.
What is-
Well, later than like-
I recognize I
we're on here.
Well, that's what-
That's-
Her has to get this some,
Blockchain.
Good job. It's pretty much identified. Maybe not the same. Like, it was like, now, bringing that level of people. Back to They don't have so much. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, I got three months. So seven? That's the one.
That's the one you use actually, right? Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. We tried, for sure.
At some point. Right, well,
Anyway, I had somebody this week.
There's a bunch of stuff that will be on the web. Oh, crap.
There's two different ones, yes.
There's no way you should have yours. You should have yours.
Sweet, I'll check it when I get home.
So did you want?
This is crazy, man.
Oh, there's a couple, yeah.
Right, but I mean, you can create one. It's
I
just
have-
now.
I have a file of full age.
I sent that so good. I sent. Yeah. It's just.
E and J and R.
Yes.
This is the shit.
Good thing you're such a fan, right?
Yeah. You know, funny thing is,
There's that.
but this is all.
Download, show him how to download the engine wallet and I'll send it to him. We're gonna stop this.